I decided to pledge Alpha Phi Alpha was this. As an athlete, I was actually approached by a number of different fraternities. They basically came by, the Kappas came by to talk to me about pledging KSI. The Qs came by to talk to me about pledging Omega Psi Phi, but the Alphas never came.
Just seeing how alpha men carried themselves. There's a saying that usually kind of bounces around the fraternity is that you know an alpha man when you see him.
Well, my parents not graduated from college or not going to universities. I didn't know anything about fraternities. So my first experience with a fraternity was at Jackson State University, where I saw brothers leading in various capacities on the yard. I didn't know who they were, didn't know what they were about, but I saw them in leadership capacities and I wanted to understand more about the organization they were a part of.
I knew that my father was in a fraternity. I didn't know what fraternity he was in, so when I was thinking about pledging a fraternity, I called my mother to ask what fraternity my father was in, and she told me that he was an Alpha. I was kind of drawn to them. I saw that they were good men, leaders.
You don't necessarily, they don't have to have on a lot of nailya or anything, but you know them when you see them, and so that precedes itself. And when you notice that as a man, you instantly want to become a part of that.
What I found was that these guys were the influencers on campus. They were the campus leaders. I was also not only impressed by who they were as people and leaders, but I was also impressed by the legacy of the fraternity. Dr. King, Thurgood Marshall, and on and on and on.
Becoming an Alpha was second nature to me after I saw how they led on the campus.
I pledged Alpha mainly for the brotherhood. I wanted to be around like-minded brothers that thought like I thought, that had the same goals that I had.
And I decided that if I was going to pledge a fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha was going to be it.
If there was one word that I could use to identify what the fraternity was, in my opinion, was unmatched.
One word would be influential.
Commitment.
And almost every aspect of the fraternal life, not only the fraternal life, but life in the community, Alpha Phi Alpha has been on the tip of the spear as it relates to influencing and making things happen. Whether it was the Voting Rights Act or whether it was commitments to do something about desegregation, all of those things, Alpha Phi Alpha has always been on the tip of the spear.
The characteristics that alpha men embody are those of scholarship, especially when you've experienced alpha men on a college campus. Brotherhood, because you see the camaraderie and the closeness. Acts of service. And so those things are hugely important.
I believe fairly strongly that it takes a village to raise a kid. And my life was one of community. My life was one of having a lot of different people being actively involved in being the man that I was. I mean, from my neighbors to my aunts and uncles.
So when you speak of the community being able to see like-minded men, African-American men, from various walks of life, and you could have law enforcement officers, you could have personal trainers, you could have judges and lawyers. There's something about that level of interaction that they're able to see and appreciate at that moment that just kind of speaks volumes.
We've always been at the forefront of the issues that are pressing for the African American community. Before the Civil Rights Movement, we were trying to make sure that young men, African American men, went to high school and went to college, and that movement. And then during the Civil Rights era, the Alphas were at the forefront. Brother King.
I think it's hugely important for alpha men to share their knowledge base.
Lead the community. We have a brother that are on the bench, Judge Michael Robinson, Judge Keithan Franks, and newly elected Judge George Odom. We have brothers here that are politically active, like Brother Chris Smith. We have always had brothers that were right in the thick of things and the thick of changes for the African American community.
Zeta Alpha Lambda continues in that legacy and in that tradition by lifting up those around me, around us rather, particularly as it relates to our youth, urging them to go to high school, go to college.
Zeta Alpha Lambda participated with Kids in Distress for about 5 years or a little bit more, raising funds. We had a partnership where a majority of the money that we raised from those events went directly to that organization, and it provided them with all the things that any child would need in life. And so sometimes those are things that we take for granted, but needless to say, they go a very long way.
We just finished a rather aggressive Get Out the Boat campaign. So those things that we do for the community are, I think, a testament to the fact that we know that we've been given certain gifts.
We've been able to provide, remotely and absent the in-person events, particularly our Voteless People is a Hopeless People. We were trying to find different and innovative ways to be socially distant and also engage the public. We staged our own rallies on the corners to get voter engagement. We made up signs basically advocating not for a particular candidate, but just to get people to vote in general.
Giving back to the community in various ways outside of just Men of Tomorrow, Boys and Girls Club. I mean, Zeta Alpha Lambda has and continues to always have brothers that are pouring into these volunteer programs.
I was able to participate in a few food distributions throughout South Florida as we gave food to those individuals that were food challenged, if you will, understanding that in order to be blessed, one has to truly be a blessing.
Founders Day to me means use of the word way. When you talk about lynchings, when you talk about President Roosevelt back in the day, dishonorably discharged black soldiers without a fair trial, when you think of the Atlanta race riots, the things that these events that I just mentioned have in common is that they all happened in the same year that Alpha Phi Alpha was founded. Yet in spite of that, 7 men were the product of what's called the black elite.
Founders Day gives a point of reflection of the 7 jewels. You think about the things that they've experienced or they experienced in those years leading up to founding the fraternity and then at its actual inception. You compare that to things and challenges that we're facing today, and you can't help but think everyone's encountered some challenges, and why is it any different from me now?
One of our founders, his father was the first black to work at the Library of Congress, Daniel Murray, whose son, of course, was Nathaniel Allison Murray. And these 7 young men, these 7 jewels, were shown the way. And then they themselves went out and tried to make a way.
I see Founders Day as an opportunity. One, to honor our beloved jewels, looking at what they did in an amazing situation to create a fraternity that had no equal. An opportunity to give gratitude to those individuals that helped you along your journey and was on that journey with you when you became a member of this organization.
It's like a solemn occasion. It's more a reflective event. We do celebrate, the starting of this great fraternity. However, I like to reflect on my individual service that I've given to the organization, things that I could have done better.
An opportunity to see the work that we've done collectively since 1906 internationally and in our local area. And here is Zeta Alpha Lambda.
Also, I use that as fuel, as a rededication tool. We have a tradition on Founders Day, and we go around in a circle and basically, do that reflection and say, what are we going to do to rededicate ourselves to Alpha?
Founders Day to me just simply means that we as men of Alpha recognize and understand that it's not a one-shot solves every problem. It's a step-by-step process, and each brother, no matter your trait, your skill, your dedication, contributes to that brick wall to help make it stronger so that society as a whole will be better.
It means a recommitment. In these difficult times, we have got to find a way to not necessarily get back to the normal, because that's probably never going to happen. But I believe that Founders Day is a way for us to ignite that thing in ourselves, to say to ourselves that we're going to recommit to our efforts, recommit to our aims, and make those things happen.
Alphas, we spend most of our time in service, whether it's through the church, a community service project, or mentoring the next generation of young men. And even in our personal lives, as first responders, as in the military, or zealously advocating for our clients in court. Founders Day is that time of the year where we can really take a step back and celebrate the world-changing things that the fraternity has accomplished and continues to accomplish.
The celebration of our Founders Day helps to remind me of why I sought to become an alpha man. With so many systems put in place to break our Black communities down, it is great to be a part of an organization that is structured to build our communities up. That is what Alpha Founders Day means to me.
You're asking me a very difficult question.
That's a hard question.
You know, there's going to be some good and bad.
I think if the Jewels were alive today, they'd be proud of what the organization has become. They'd be proud of the fact that we've expanded internationally. They'd be proud of the fact that we've helped the first Black president become the leader of the free world. They'd be proud to know that we helped the first African-American woman become vice president.
The Jewels are going to say, gosh, I'm so proud of what we've accomplished and how far we've come as a people, as a country.
I think they'd be pleased with some of the personal achievements that many of the brothers have accomplished.
Overall, the work that Alpha has done in the state where Alpha is now is phenomenal. We continue to be active in matters that are very critical to the community.
I think that they would probably be encouraged that lo these 100+ years that we have survived and that we are thriving. But I think that they would probably be a little disappointed, and I believe the church equivalent is you come into membership in the front door and then you rush out the back door. I think that would be a source of disappointment that we have such a small percentage of active brothers as compared to the total number of brethren.
We have a retention rate that's only about 20%. That's a problem. That's a problem if in fact we are to continue to be that tip of the spear that I continue to talk about, or that influencer, or that change agent, or that continue to do that leadership role, if in fact we're not able to hang on to the brothers that we actually make and galvanize their contributions.
They'd also see civil unrest. They'd also see challenges that we faced that were similar to what was faced in years when they were alive. And so they would know that although we've done some amazing things, there still is a need for Alpha.
I'm not sure they'd be extremely proud of the percentage of active members that we have, but they could be proud about the actual recognition of an organization that we have across the world. We've been able to expand to a lot of chapters. And, you know, that's a very tough question to answer, but I would really hope that during this Founders Day, brothers actually think about that and get other alphas that aren't active involved.
As a collective of alpha men, I think they would definitely charge us to not just show up to the party, but to actually be the party.
I think they would want us to be involved in the voting. I think they would appreciate Black Lives Matter. I think they may not agree with defund the police and all of that, but I think that they would understand that we need equity and criminal justice reform. We need criminal justice reform. I think they'd be interested in that.
We need brothers to continue within their respective cities, communities, areas to do what needs to be done and speak up against the racism, the injustice, the inequality, the disproportionate sentencing. It takes those brothers in those neighborhoods to speak up and come out and address those issues. And so when the question becomes, where do I see or where do I think we will be or where do I see us being, I think it's always, the future of Alpha has always been reliant upon the brothers of Alpha and them stepping out and doing what needs to be done to bring attention to those matters.
On this occasion, happy Founders Day.
Happy Founders Day, happy Founders Day.
To all the brothers out there, I would like to wish you a happy Founders Day. 06, brothers.
Happy Founders Day, brothers. A Phi.